Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So let's discuss the glories of BhavaGrahiJanardana, Lord Shri Krishna, and how he is so merciful to us. Hare Krishna, please join us for little Harinam.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we will be discussing the glories of Lord Shri Krishna as BhavaGrahiJanardana. So in yesterday in Srimad Bhagavatam class, we touched on this subject as how Lord, He sees the intentions of His devotees. Sometimes among devotees we have this common saying that when we are making an offering to Lord Shri Krishna, He doesn't see what you are offering, but He sees at times what you are holding back, right? So many times, in the beginning stages, we used to make an offering in a hundi, and sometimes people would bring a lot of change and make the big sound with this change that they are putting so much change in the hundi. While Lord Krishna is not looking at what you are offering, but rather He is looking at what are you keeping back in your pocket. And this has been, in this particular class, we'll cover the glories of Vālakhilyas, as how they, great ascetics. So how does it matter that we are talking about these ascetics by the name Vālakhilyas? Because they were not, they didn't have gigantic body, but they were very austere. And their size was more like the size of a thumb. And actually in Srimad Bhagavatam it's given that the joint of the thumb, just that's the size of these sages. So you can imagine, they have not been named individually, they were just as a group of sages who were very small in size. And as you can see, and actually the joint of the thumb, so even half of that. So you can imagine, those were their sizes. And when Kashyapa Muni, he wanted to perform a great fire sacrifice for his sons. At that time, how these sages were mocked. So we'll be covering those pastimes today. So please join us in Guru Pranati. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshitarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So today we are discussing the glories of Lord Shri Krishna as BhavaGrahiJanardana. And it starts in this particular incident. In today's class we are discussing that when Kashyap Muni, he had many wives, right? And most of them were sisters, daughters of Daksha. Daksha means expert. So he was expert in his task as a Prajapati to increase the progeny of this universe. And so many of his daughters were married to Kashyapa Muni, like Diti and Aditi. And there was Niti and Vinita was also one of his wife. So, now I'm forgetting the other name. But it just so happened, let's quickly cover, it will come back to me, hopefully, by Lord's mercy. So, once when Kashyap Muni, he declares that he is going to perform great sages and he requests others to participate and contribute. At that time, great ascetics, saints, demigods from all over the universe, they come to help him. And at that time, Indra, he's got this gigantic body and he's going to the forest and he's collecting trees and herbs as, for the paraphernalia, for the fire sacrifice. And he's carrying this mountain of load. And he's carrying this mountain of load. On his way back, he sees Vālakhilyas, right? And this Vālakhilyas are small ascetic sages, like we discussed, just about the length of the joint of the thumb. So these Vālakhilyas sages, together they could only carry a leaf. Sometimes it's given a twig, but actually it was, a leaf. And thank you. So they were carrying this, and because Indra was passing with such a strong force, and there was wind blowing, so as these ascetics, they were carrying this twig or this leaf, together, many of them, because they only had such a small body, but they were trying to carry this. But because of the wind and because of the weight of that leaf, they were getting, they could not go walk straight. So they were getting, imbalanced as they were walking. So in the due course of time, what happens is, because of the wind and not being able to balance themselves, they fall in a cow's hoof print. The cow's hoof print. And because of the rain, there was water puddle in that. So they, fell in that muddy water. And seeing them fall in that muddy water, Indra, he just laughed, mocking them. What are they carrying? They're carrying a leaf and they can't even carry the leaf. So that way he's mocking. And then on top of that, he offends them. He actually crosses over them. Instead of taking a side to walk around, he's showing that I'm so powerful I can just jump over you. And so these sages, these ascetics, they were gravely insulted. They felt insulted and they felt offended by Indra. So they brought whatever they can, and then they took this because they were so much offended that in that hurt they perform another sacrifice. And this sacrifice they perform is to get another Indra who would be 100 times more powerful than current Indra. And that this Indra will kick out the current Indra and will be righteously, ruling the heavenly planets, all the demigods and all the universe and so forth, under, of course, Manu's administration. So as soon as Indra comes to know of this, he's always anxious about his position, right? So when sage Vishwamitra performs, meditation for 60,000 years, Indra, because he's afraid his position will be taken away, he sends Menaka. When Prithu Maharaj is going to perform 100 Ashwamedh Yajna, horse sacrifice, at that time Indra, he becomes fearful that once he performs 100 Ashwamedh Yajnas, then he can take my throne. So again, he keeps stealing the horse, and afterwards Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu themselves, they had to go and pacify Prithu Maharaj that give up this desire for 100. So his 99 Ashwamedh Yajnas are glorified more than the 100 Yajnas that the Indra had performed to be able to get to his current position. And similarly, Indra is always fearful of losing his position, and that is the material nature. In material world, everyone is, when conditioned, is trying to preserve their, position, name, fame, and glories, continue to, and that's also actually Lord Krishna says in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Divine and Demonic Nature, that is a demonic understanding. Being conditioned, sometimes living entities, they become fearful of their position, and they feel that others are envious of them, and they feel that others want to take away what they have. So they become lusty and they become envious. That is aham mameti. I, thinking that I am this body, and all the designations associated with this body causes one to get bewildered, and so one can become envious. And mamete is mine, right? So one can become lusty. So here Indra, realizing, now these are great ascetics, he cannot fight with them, he cannot do anything. So he approaches Lord Brahma for a solution. And Lord Brahma realizes that this happened when Kashyapa Muni was performing fire sacrifice to beget nice sons. So Lord Brahma asks him to approach Kashyapa Muni. So now Indra goes to Kashyapa Muni and says, please help me. This is the state that they have performed great fire sacrifice successfully, and that they would be able to get another Indra who will be 100 times more powerful than me. So please somehow pacify them that this does not happen. So Sage Kashyapa, being a very munificent personality, a magnanimous soul, he approaches the ascetics, Vālakhilyas actually, and so when he approaches them, he requests them that please don't perform this, Vālakhilyas. So he approaches, Sage Kashyapa approaches Vālakhilyas and requests them that please, don't try to overthrow current Indra. He was appointed by Lord Brahma. So if you do that, then you're actually insulting Lord Brahma. So he places his argument very interestingly. And this way, the way this conversation happens and Kashyapa Muni places this argument reminds me of another story. So when it so happened that once there was a lion, and when he got up in the morning, his wife, the lioness, she said, your mouth is stinking, you should go and wash your mouth and wash your face, because I can feel that bad smell coming from you. So now this lion, he summons a sheep, a wolf, and a fox to come and give him advice. So he comes and he says to the sheep, don't fear anything, but I want your honest opinion. And the sheep says, what is it, Your Majesty? The lion says, is my mouth stinking? Now sheep, thinking that lion really wants an honest opinion, is smelling, she says, yes, Your Majesty, it's a very bad stink. Yes, you are stinking, your mouth is stinking. So now lion, he becomes angry. He was not ready to hear this, so he immediately pounces on her and eats her up. Now the wolf saw what happened to the sheep. So when lion asks the wolf that, do you think my mouth is stinking? The wolf says, no, it's not at all stinking, it's very fragrant, not at all. Then the lion says, oh, you are lying. How dare you lie in front of me? That is insulting. He kills the wolf. Then he calls fox, and fox has seen, if you say it's stinking, an honest opinion, you get killed. If you say it's not stinking, you get killed.
So fox is known to be a very clever animal. So when lion asks this question, the fox says, well, trying to smell again and again, he says, my dear Majesty, I don't know. I have been having this nose trouble, right? I cannot smell anything for so many days. So kindly forgive me, I cannot tell you either way what it is. So lion, he says, okay, you may go. So again, here, Kashyapa Muni is presenting in a similar way a logic. So a devotee is so wonderful that he is presenting logic in a wonderful way. Now sometimes when we say Kashyapa Muni is devotee, people get bewildered, right? Because Kashyapa Muni's worshipable deity is Lord Shiva, right? And when he is worshipping Lord Shiva, so he is a Shaivite, but he is actually a Vaishnavite in the form of a Shaivite. How's that? Once Srila Prabhupada, he was asked this question that, when the devotees, they were preaching to one person, and this person was Lord Shiva's devotee. They said, Srila Prabhupada, he worships Lord Shiva, and how can he benefit? Then Srila Prabhupada said, well, he can benefit. Lord Shiva is the topmost Vaishnava, Vaishnavam Yatha Shambhu. Lord Shiva is the topmost Vaishnava. So if the person worships Lord Shiva as a devotee of Lord Krishna, then he would be benefited. And that is the mood Kashyapa Muni worships Lord Shiva as the topmost Vaishnava. So exalted Vaishnavas are worshipable. And Lord Krishna, he is pleased with his devotees, but he is more pleased with the devotees of his devotees. That's why in disciplic succession, we worship our spiritual master, because by worshipping a spiritual master, we get the blessings of spiritual master and manifold blessings of his spiritual masters in the parampara, and finally, many fold by Lord Shri Krishna. So we get amazing, fortunate situation we are in, that we are able to worship exalted Vaishnavas. So Kashyapa Muni is similarly worshipping Lord Shiva as the topmost Vaishnava, so much so that he is able to get Lord Krishna, appear as his son Upendra, right? So here in this particular case, when Vālakhilyas, they hear this nice, plea from Kashyapa Muni on behalf of Indra, they say, okay, so we will not have another Indra born who would take Indra's place, but since you are performing the sacrifice to beget very nice sons, we would pass on that boon to you, so that your sons would be those amazing personalities. So one of your son who would be 100 times more powerful than the current Indra, and he would be the Indra of the birds, right? Pakshendriyas. So he would be the king of all the birds. So when various wives were making requests to Kashyapa Muni, Kadru, she places a request that she wants 1,000 sons. So Kashyapa Muni grants her that wish, and she gives birth to 1,000 eggs, and she is waiting for these eggs to hatch. Vinata, she requests that may she have only two, just a few sons, but they will be majestic. So remembering the boon of Vālakhilyas, Kashyapa Muni, he grants her these wishes. So she gives birth to 2 eggs. Now these 2 eggs, she is waiting for them to hatch. Now Kadru's 1,000 eggs, they are hatching, and all these nagas, they are coming out. So there is Anantashesh coming out, there is Vasuki coming out, there is again other nagas, they are coming out. So Kadru is very happy that she has these 1,000 sons. Now Vinata, she is becoming very impatient. She is waiting for the 2 eggs. She only has 2 eggs and she is waiting. So because of her impatience, she breaks one of the egg. And when she breaks one of the egg, the body of, was only half formed in the egg. So this is Arun, he comes out, and his lower part of the body is not yet formed. And he curses her that you would become a slave to your own sister because you tried to hurry up because of being envious of your sister. So sometimes it just happens that even among the devotees and among similar groups, there are some conflict and some envy is there. Oh, Kadru has 1,000 Nagas as her sons and they are so powerful. Anantashesh is there, Vasuki is there, and so many of other Nagas. While I only have 2 eggs and they have not yet hatched. So because of envy she had broken this, because of her impatience to get the son. So Arun, he curses her and then he says, but you should not destroy the other egg. Because he was fearful, if she destroys the other egg, then it will, even that brother of his would have a similar fate as his. He doesn't want that. And he says, let that hatch in its due course of time, and the son born from that egg, your son, would be able to free you from slavery. Giving this boon, Arun Dev, he goes to Vivaswan, Lord Vivaswan, the sun god, and sun god, employs him. He accepts him as his charioteer. So every morning before the sunrise, we see this Lanima, right, in the eastern horizon. So that Lanima is because of Arun. He is coming. So such magnanimous, majestic personality he is, that just even though his body is half formed, his wings are half formed, he doesn't have the lower half of the body, but he's so majestic that, before even coming of the sun, he, as a charioteer is sitting in front of the chariot, right? I mean, the passenger. And Surya Devaspan, he is on the back. Now, scientists would say, well, sun is stationary and earth is evolving and all that stuff, but we have to understand from our perception, this is what it is given in the Shastras. So Arun is a charioteer and he manifests that Lanima, that beautiful reddish horizon in the east before the sunrise. Now, Vinata, realizing that the curse is there and that she is afraid of the curse given by her own son, she doesn't touch that other egg yet. What happens is, once during the churning of the ocean, there was a horse that came out, right? And Bali Maharaj took that horse. So this horse would sometimes come down to earth. And so both the sisters, they were looking at this. So they were just thinking that last time we saw this, is his tail white or black? So at that time, Vinata says, I'm sure his tail is white. Kadru says, no, I think it is black. So they put a bet, right? They agreed that whoever wins, they will become the master and the loser would become the slave. Vinata easily agrees, because she remembers such is the case. Now Kadru, realizing that it could be white, she tells her sons, the Nagas, that you should go and cover the tail of this horse, so that when the horse is, descending and ascending, at that time it appears black, because Nagas have dark complexion. Nagas first they refuse. So at that time she curses them, that once later on there will be a great sacrifice performed by King Janmejaya, because of his father Parikshit Maharaj being killed by one of you. So again, we know this is Takshak, right? The third Naga, younger brother of, and of course, there is also Kaliya as one of the Nagas. So all these, in the scriptures, various Nagas that we hear, Anantashesh, Vasuki, Takshak, Kaliya, they are all Kadru's sons. So they realize that Mother has just given us a curse that we would be burning in this fire being performed with sacrifice that will be performed by Janmejaya to avenge the death of his father Parikshit Maharaj. So we should somehow go and satisfy the mother. So they say, okay, we will do this, what we have asked. So they go and tell Kadru, and Kadru is happy. What happens is, when the horse descends, at that time, behind the bushes, all the Nagas, they, cling to its tail. So when it's ascending back through the skyway, right, Akash Marg, at that time, the tail appears black. And now Kadru says, see Vinata, you said it's white, but it is black, so you are my slave from this day onward. Now Vinata is lamenting because that curse given by, Arun, that has come into effect. And now she is waiting for the second egg to hatch so that she can be delivered of this curse. Now when the second egg hatches, this is Garud, Garuda, he is appearing from the second egg. And he realizes that his mother Vinata was tricked by Kadru and her sons, the Nagas. So he decides that he would like to free her from this slavery. So every day means he had to carry all these Nagas to various places, and he was serving, because if mother is slave, the son automatically becomes a slave. And he asked them, how can I be freed from this curse? Now Nagas, they had been cursed by Kadru, their mother, that they would be killed in this great fire sacrifice when King Janmejaya would perform to avenge his father's death. So they think that if we get Amrit, then we will not be affected. So they say, you should get us a pot of Amrit, nectar. So that will make us immortal and we will not be killed. And then, your mother will not be a slave anymore. So hearing this, Garuda, he decides that he will get the pot of nectar. Now Garuda, as he goes to the heavenly planets, there's a beautiful description. It's really long, but we'll try to make it, because of the time. So the demigods are surprised that they are not able to fight Garuda. He is so magnanimous, he is so mighty, he is so powerful. And even though they have placed amazing riddle, like booby traps, as you can say, for anyone trying to approach this pot of nectar, and they are always afraid that the demons could get pot of nectar. So they had put big booby traps. We can forget about all the booby traps we see in Hollywoods and Bollywood movies. These were amazing booby traps. One of them was, I'll just give you a description. One of them was a big wheel, as a gate to enter. This wheel had blades rotating, and these blades were rotating in an arbitrary manner while and they had 3 layers of blades rotating one after another. So there is no way one can pass through these gates, and they were managed by a very sophisticated system built by Vishwakarma himself. So when Vishwakarma comes in front of Garuda, Garuda beats him up very badly. But since he's already unconscious, there is no way for Garuda to ask, how do I enter through the gate? So Garuda, he is so mighty that this wheel is rotating with these blades with an amazing speed. So Garuda starts rotating with the same speed. He picks up that speed, and he has this gigantic bird form, right? He has that eagle-like form. And he's rotating with that form. So relativity theory says that when your 2 objects are rotating at the same speed, they appear stationary if in the same direction. So now those blades were stationary from Garuda's perspective, yet he had a gigantic body to be able to pass through. Yet he was so flexible, he was able to squeeze through. Like he became as thin as paper to be able to pass through those blades. And he was more sharp than the blades. So if the blades did touch him, the blades got, destroyed instead of his body getting destroyed. And he passes through them, and inside what he sees, 2 gigantic snakes. I sometimes feel that Hollywood and Bollywood should read this narration, this story, and make some nice movie to spread to the world as how, Garuda, the son of Vinata, was so majestic. And he is able to get, past these snakes. All he does is he throws dust in their eyes and spoiling their vision, and able to pass through them, picks up the pot of nectar and comes out. Just the way he entered in, he is able to come out. And at this time, the demigods are shocked. They could not stop him. All of them together, Vayudev, Agnidev, Indra, all of them there. Indra now invokes his Vajra, and he attacks with the thunderbolt weapon. And Garuda, he merely laughs. He says, that didn't affect me, but realizing that this is made from the bones of Dadichi Muni. So he says, okay, I will grant, because the glories of this weapon should not go away. So he allows one of his many golden feathers to, break away. And as Garuda is passing, holding the pot of nectar in its beak, so he's holding it in his beak, yet at the same time he has not tasted a single drop himself. So when Lord Vishnu, he comes to stop and fight with Garuda, he sees that Garuda is not taking for himself. He's taking it to free his mother. He understands BhavaGrahiJanardana. He understands the heart of Garuda. So instead of fighting, he becomes pleased and he says, ask for 2 boons. So Garuda, first one he realizes that Lord Vishnu saw that I am not interested in this nectar for myself. He says, give me the boon that without having to take in any nectar, I will become immortal. And so granted, tathastu, so be it, Lord Vishnu says. And then, actually, this is the second verse. The first one was that I would always stay above you. Now that is amazing when devotees hear this. This is like, Garuda is asking the bird, the king of the birds, he's asking that I would always stay above you, above Lord Krishna. And he says, yes, so be it as well. So this is the reason Lord Krishna's chariot has the flag with the insignia of Varun Dev. He is on top of that chariot. He is himself residing. Now Garuda Dev, not Varun. Varun Dev is the demigod of the ocean. So Garuda, he is asking to Lord Vishnu that now you have granted me 2 wishes. I would like to also grant you a boon. So this is an amazing quality where we learn that devotees are actually order suppliers of the Lord. They want to do things to please the Lord. And Lord Vishnu is very much pleased by this giving attitude of Garuda. He says, why don't you become my Vahan, my carrier? So from that day onwards, Garuda becomes Lord Vishnu's carrier. And to pacify the whole situation, Lord Vishnu, he's asked Indra to have, an agreement with Garuda. So they make a plan that Indra would be hiding behind when Garuda places the pot in front of the Nagas and somehow will distract them away, and Indra would be able to take away the pot. So this whole plan is being, arranged, and it just so happens that when Garuda comes, he puts the pot, he says, yes, here is the pot of nectar. Now my mother, she should be freed. So he places it on a nice place, a platform where there was kusha grass and so forth. So he places it there. And but he says, but you should take bath. This is an auspicious occasion where you're going to taste nectar and you'll become immortal. So you should first take bath and then you should come and taste the nectar and become immortal. So now Vinita is freed from the slavery of her sister Kadru and the Nagas. And Garuda leaves with his mother and he goes to Vaikuntha in Lord Vishnu's service to be his carrier. Whenever he is called, he goes there. Except for one time when he refuses. That's a story for another time. So here Indra is hiding, right? And as soon as the Nagas leave, Indra picks up the pot of nectar and he leaves and takes it back and places it where it was. So now Garuda and Indra have become allies. They have become friends. So Indra is amazed to see that it is Garuda who is 100 times more powerful than Indra. Even Vajra cannot affect him. But, to keep the glories of Vajra, he allowed one of his feathers to pass. Similarly, when Hanumanji in Ashok Vatika, he was creating all this terror. All the demons and demonesses, they were being terrorized. And this Hanumanji was doing just to show Sita Mata that she should not think that Lord Ram has warned us in an army of monkeys that these monkeys are less powerful than the demons. So he wants to show and make her feel comfortable. So that's why he was creating all this terror. And then when Akshay Kumar, son of Ravan, comes, Hanuman kills him. So one of the son of Ravan is killed by Hanuman. And then Meghnath comes, Indrajit. So he had defeated Indra, such a personality Meghnath is. And Meghnath also means Indra, right? Megh is cloud and Nath is the lord of the clouds, and Indra is also said to be the lord of the clouds. So Indrajit, when he comes, he's trying to defeat Hanumanji, but he's not able to. So at that time, he has no other solution and he invokes Brahmastra and he shoots Hanumanji with a Brahmastra. Now Hanumanji could easily pacify and easily nullify the effect of Brahmastra, but at the same time, to keep the glory of this weapon, Brahmastra, because if he doesn't keep the glories intact, then the significance will go away. So he agrees to be bound by, to be affected by Brahmastra, just like Garuda allows one of his feathers to be taken away. So Hanumanji allows it, and then Indrajit uses Nagapash to bind Hanumanji. So similarly here, Garudev is being glorified as how he becomes the carrier of Lord Vishnu, always looking to serve Lord Vishnu, yet at the same time he is always above Lord Vishnu. So on the chariot of Lord Krishna, Garuda is appearing as insignia on his flag. So that is the secret, as how Lord is BhavaGrahiJanardana. He sees what is in the heart of his devotee, and he sees the loving attitude, the affection of his devotee. So he grants them service, and he grants them wonderful, opportunities to serve him. And here we see that how sometimes Lord even allows devotees to be more glorious, because what did Garudev ask? And it was incited by Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is transcendental. Lord Krishna at work is called Lord Vishnu, right? Srila Prabhupada makes it so simple that when we go to work, we have a different kind of relationship, different kind of activities. We come home, then we have different type of relationships and activities. So similarly, Lord Krishna, when he expands as Vishnu, he is managing the affairs of this material universe, while Krishna is at home in Vrindavan with his loving devotees, exchanging the loving pastimes, the sweet pastimes with the gopis, Mother Yashoda, Nand Maharaj, the cowherd boys and the elderly gopis, stirring butter and so forth. So here we see as how Lord as BhavaGrahiJanardana, he really sees the essence in our heart, and how we should be very much aware that we should not even do Janaprad. Forget about Vaishnava Aprad. Vaishnava Aprad is mad elephant disease. So in this nice garden, if a mad elephant enters, he'll destroy the whole garden. So in the garden of our heart, we don't want Vaishnava Aprad to come in and destroy the Bhakti Lata Bij, right? The Bhakti Lata, the creeper of our devotion, to be destroyed. At the same time, we want to nub in the bud the weeds that grows around Bhakti Lata. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsara. So lust, anger, greed, delusion, madness and envy. So we don't want these to again have any room in our heart, and we don't even want to perform Janaprad, because that's what Suruchi did. Dhruv Maharaj was not yet known as devotee, a great Bhagavat, right? Yet at the same time she pushed him from the lap of her husband, Uttanpad, saying that you have to first take birth from my womb to be able to sit in your father's lap. And Dhruv Maharaj was hurt by these harsh words of his stepmother. So when he came to his mother Suniti, she instructed that you should approach the Supreme Father, Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's where Dhruv Maharaj, being a Kshatriya with that spirit, he was determined, and when he was going by Lord's mercy, Devashi Narad appears. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. So by the mercy of Lord Krishna, Lord sends a spiritual master, his representative, his external manifestation in the form of a guru, a bona fide spiritual master. And Devashi Narad gives the instructions to Dhruv Maharaj as how to worship. And the mantra is the invocation mantra of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. By chanting this mantra, just in 6 months, Dhruv Maharaj attains perfection and he sees Lord Vishnu. So such are the glories. And Lord Vishnu, even though at that time, being touched by the conch of the Lord, he is completely purified. Dhruv Maharaj, what does he ask for? He asks for the service. How can he continue to serve his spiritual master Devashi Narad? How he can do Vaishnava Seva? So Lord is such a wonderful, father, such an affectionate father, that he says, yes, that as well as you will be able to have a planet, because he wanted, a kingdom even greater than his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. So Dhruv planet is given to him. So that even when Brahmalok, the Satyalok is destroyed, Dhruv Lok still shines and, stays there. So those are the glories, some of the glories we discussed today. Hope you enjoyed it, and please meditate on it. And these stories are for us to increase our love for Godhead, to increase our mood, the right mood when we serve Lordhead, with devotion, with gratitude, with humility. And understanding how wonderful Lord Krishna is and so merciful he is and so merciful are his devotees. Hare Krishna.